Hello, guys, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. My name is Vijeta, and we will be continuing with the lecture series. We were talking about Dido, the Queen of Carthage, by Christopher Marlowe, and we discussed how Erebus is happy that Ascanius is leaving to go to Italy, and he's like Ascanius and Aeneas both, and Erebus wants Aeneas to leave so that he can have a chance with Dido, and so he supplies Aeneas with the missing tackle so that he can leave Dido and go to Italy. Now, Aeneas tells Dido that he must leave, but she pleads with him to ignore Jupiter's command. But he refuses to do so. He departs, leaving Dido in despair. The nurse says that Ascanius has disappeared and Dido orders her to be imprisoned. Dido tells Erebus and Anna to make a funeral pyre on which she will burn everything that reminds her of Aeneas. So the thing is that Ascanius was actually Cupid, so no chance there. So Dido is like, she is upset, she is sad, and after cursing Aeneas properly, Dido throws herself into the fire. Erebus is horrified and he kills himself. Anna, on seeing Erebus dead, she kills herself. Even the Merchant of Venice has a reference of Dido. In such a night stood Dido with a willow in her hand upon the wild sea banks and waft her love to come again to Carthage. The Merchant of Venice, Act 5, Scene 1. Now we come to other minor works of Marlowe. The first book of Lucan, Ovid's Amours, The Massacre at Paris, The Tragedy of the Guys. It was unfinished and it was released in 1593. The Passionate Shepherd to His Love. It was a poem. One of the famous lines of this poem is, "Come, live with me and be my love." Translation of Lucan's Pharsalia from Latin. That was also to Marlowe's credit. Now we come to chapter 25, Robert Greene, another of university wits. His timeline was again from 1558 to 1592. Short timeline. He was one of the university wits. He was very famous for his pamphlets such as Green's 1592, A Groatsworth of Wit. It's not 1952, it's 1592 again. Bought with a Million of Repentance, again 1592, not 1952. All of these pamphlets were believed to be an attack on Shakespeare, and he did his BA from Cambridge and MA from Oxford University. He published in many genres such as plays, romances, and autobiographies. Green's literary career began with the publication of Mammalia, a mirror or looking glass for the ladies of England, in 1583. It was dedicated to Lord Darcy of the North. Green's romances were written in a highly wrought style, which reached its highest level in Pandosto in 1588 and Menaphon 1589. Menaphon is dedicated to Lady Hales, wife of the late deceased Sir James Hales. One song from Menaphon, "Weep Not My Wanton, Smile Upon My Knee," a mother's lullaby to her baby son, enjoyed immense success and is now probably his best known work. In addition to his prose works, he also wrote several plays, but none of them were published in his lifetime. So they were all published anonymously. And it includes the Scottish history of James IV, Alphonsus, Friar Bacon, and Friar Bungay. I think it's one of the plays which is more known. Orlando Furioso, based on Ariosto's Orlando Furioso, and it's very important also. In attacking Shakespeare, he used the term Shakescene to refer to the actor, because you see, Shakespeare acted as well. Greene attacked Shakespeare as an upstart crow because at that time, Shakespeare had been an upstart actor contributing to Henry VI and King John. An upstart crow beautified with our feathers is a coat which is from A Groatsworth of Wit and very well known. Green wrote A Looking Glass for London and England in collaboration with Thomas Lodge. The comical history of Alphonsus, King of Aragon, was also written by Green in 1590. Green is most familiar to Shakespeare for his pamphlet A Groat's Worth of Wit, which alludes to a line, "O tiger's heart wrapped in a woman's hide," found in Shakespeare's Henry VI, Part 3, written in 1623. So you see, Shakespeare was also aware of Green's criticisms. Verses by Green, A Maiden's Dream in 1591. It is dedicated to Lady Elizabeth Hatton, wife to Sir William Hatton. Plays by Green, Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay, written in 1590. Originally entitled The Honourable History of Friar Bacon and Friar Bungay, a comedy. Sequel, John of Boudoir, or the second part of Friar Bacon. Not asked a lot, but still. A History of Orlando Furioso, written in 1590. A Looking Glass for London and England with Thomas Lodge in 1590. Now, it recounts the biblical story of Jonah and the fall of Nineveh. It is a noteworthy example of a morality play. The Scottish History of James IV, written in 1590. The Comical History of Alphonsus, King of Aragon, written in 1590. Groat's Worth of Wit. It was printed for Wright by John Danter and John Wolfe. Groat's Worth was reprinted by Thomas Green in 1596. Thomas Nash denied it in 1594 in the edition of his book Piers Penilyn, calling his work a called trivial lying pamphlet. So he had some mixed feelings about his works. And now we come to other works of Green. Mammalia, A Mirror or Looking Glass for the Ladies of England. It is dedicated to Lord Darcy of the North, written in 1583. Mammalia, the second part of The Triumph of Pallas, in 1593, and it is dedicated to Robert Lee and Roger Pottington. Farewell to Folly, it is dedicated to Robert Carey. Pandosto, it is dedicated to George Clifford, and it was written in 1588. The Anatomy of Lovers' Flatteries, written in 1584. It is dedicated to Mary Rogers, wife to Master Hugh Rogers of Everton. Arbasto, The Anatomy of Fortune, 1584. Dedicated to Mary Talbot. Euphues, his censure to Philotas, in 1587. Dedicated to Robert Devereux. Alcida, Green's Metamorphosis, written in 1617. Dedicated to Sir Charles Blount. Now we come to George Peele, chapter 26, and his timeline is also very short, 1556 to 1596. He was hardly 40 when he died, one of the university wits. Now, George Peele was an English translator, poet, and dramatist. He is most famous for his collaborative writing with Shakespeare on the play Titus Andronicus. Peele died of the pox, and some of the plays of George Peele are The Arraignment of Paris, written in 1584. It was presented by the children of the Chapel Royal before Queen Elizabeth in 1581 and printed anonymously in 1584. In the play, Paris is arraigned before Jupiter for having assigned the apple to Venus. Diana, with whom the final decision rests, gives the apple to none of the competitors but to a nymph called Eliza, a reference to Queen Elizabeth. Edward I, the next play, written in 1593, famous chronicle of King Edward I. This chronicle history, written in 1593, is an advance on the old chronicle plays and marks a step towards Shakespeare's historical drama. Slight mistake here. And the next play is The Battle of Alcazar, written in 1518, actually performed in 1589 and published in 1594. The primarily historical source for the play, John Polemons, the second part of the Book of Battles, fought in our age. It was written in 1587. So you see, all these writers were influenced by someone or the other. So that's quite interesting. And the questions in net are usually asked like this. They can ask you like which writer was influenced by which other dramatist and so on. Messenger believes that Ulysses 1631, it was written in 1631, was originally about Sebastian. John Dryden wrote Don Sebastian 1689 on the same subject. So yeah, a lot of works written about Sebastian. And now we come to The Old Wives' Tale, written in 1595. It is also a play. The Old Wives' Tale is also a novel by Arnold Bennett, published in 1908, and it was his masterpiece satire on the popular drama of the day. He has used the theatrical device of play within a play in this. It is criticized as a confusing fumble of theatrical nonsense. Others have called it a fantastical comic romance. Now, the play has been identified as the first English work to satirize the romantic dramas popular at the time. The plot centers around three young men who become lost in the woods but are given shelter for the night by Clunch, a blacksmith, and his wife Madge, the eponymous old wife. During their stay, one retires to bed with Clunch, while the other two are entertained by their hostess, who tells them a fairy tale, much to her surprise, comes to life. Which is to say that her characters, start appearing and start telling it for her, the play within the play. And one strand of the plot involves two brothers who are on an adventure searching for their sister, Delia, who is being held captive by the magician Sacripant. Compare Milton's Comus, they are kind of similar. The magician also captures the brothers. Eventually, they are all rescued by a knight, aided by a ghost who is motivated by gratitude for the past acts of kindness by the knight. So, the knight and the ghost, they come to their rescue. The love of King David and fair Bathsheba, I think it's Bathsheba or Bathsheba, I'm not quite sure, but I think you must have heard about it. It was performed in 1588 and published in 1599. It's a biblical tragedy. There is this musical piece also called The Arrival of the Queen of Sheba. It's a classical piece. I was just reminded of that. Sir Clermont and Sir Chlamydes in 1599, and it's a tragic comedy. This work best represents the characteristic of pre-Greenian dramatic romance. It opens in Denmark, rhymed heptameter verse. It influenced several plays of Shakespeare, such as You Like It, A Midsummer Night's Dream, Cymbeline, Henry IV, Part 2. So Greene is known for writing about romantic comedies. Like he wrote a lot about romance, sometimes mocking it, sometimes criticizing it. Now we come to Thomas Lodge, and his timeline is it's a little bit more. It's from 1558 to 1625. Okay, I think I repeated the slide. Yeah. So he was the son of Sir Thomas Lodge, Lord Mayor of London. It was common to have names of your father, so it might become confusing, but that was that. He was educated at Burton Taylor School and Trinity College, Oxford. He wrote Defense of Plays in reply to Stephen Gosson's School of Abuse, very important. Lodge is the young juvenile of Greene's Groatsworth of Wit, A Marguerite of America. It is the most important romance of Lodge, in which he combines Senecan motives and Arcadian romance in an improbable love story. Lodge also wrote pamphlets in reply to Stephen Greenblatt, and he made voyages to Canary Island. These people traveled a lot, you see, and his dramatic works are A Looking Glass for London and England, and it was written in collaboration with Robert Greene. The Wounds of Civil War, it was also a well-known work. Now we come to the prose romance and poetic work. Rosalind or Euphues' Golden Legacy, this is the source of Shakespeare's As You Like It. An Alarm Against Usurers, It exposes the ways in which moneylenders used young heirs into extravagance and debt. It was like, in the olden times, it was like the credit card system for young heirs. These people used to give huge amounts of money to these young people, young heirs, and then they gambled it all away, and now they were into debt. And the debt that they had to pay was asked, like, that debt was something that made them very miserable, and you can read about it in a lot of Georgette Heye's novels as well. In that, she has actually showed how young heirs were put into this fix by these people, these money lenders, who lended the money very generously in the beginning, and then they were like, yeah, now we have you in our chokehold. So that is that. Silius Metamorphosis. I think it's this metamorphosis. Silius Metamorphosis. It is an Ovidian verse fable. This is the source for Shakespeare's Venus and Adonis. Venus, not Venus, okay? A fig for Momus or Momus. He introduced classical satires and verse epistles for the first time into English through this work. Now we come to Thomas Nash. And I think, yeah, we can do Thomas Nash. Thomas Nash, his timeline was from 1567 to 1601. And he was a pamphleteer, poet, dramatist, and author of The Unfortunate Traveller or The Life of Jack Wilton, the first picaresque novel in English. He was educated at the University of Cambridge. In 1589, he wrote The Anatomy of Absurdity and the preface to Green's Menaphon. He wrote a preface to Thomas Newman's unauthorized edition of Astrophel versus Astrophel. Piers Penniless, his Supplication to the Devil. It is a satire focused on the 7 deadly sins, and it was Nash's most distinctive work. Summers' Last Will and Testament is his picaresque novel, and it is asked a lot. Picaresque novel means a novel in which a rogue-like character and his adventures are described. Dido, the Queen of Carthage, is supposed to be a collaborative work with Christopher Marlowe. Now we come to The Unfortunate Traveller, the life of Jack Wilton. And I think I should stop here because it's quite enough. And I hope you liked the video. Please, any suggestions or any remarks are welcome. If you like the video, please like the video, subscribe to my channel, and I will meet you all in the next video. Thank you.